Hey guys, David here. So my hair is a little frizzy. I got my espresso coffee drinks, so there's no other way to possibly get any more ready to review Hardcore Henry. Hold on, let me just take my shots of espresso here. Liquid gasoline. That's the only way for me to function. And it's possibly the only way for Mr. Henry here to function in this movie. That with probably a couple cans of Red Bull, a bag of cocaine, and a couple of shots of adrenaline. And he is pretty much ready to take on a regular workday. Because that's just the way this movie works. Here's my review for one of the most talked about movies of this year, Hardcore Henry, in which we have basically an action film in which a man wakes up with no memory of who he is or where he comes from or what's happened to him. He only knows that he now has some cybernetic parts attached to his body that allow him to be a little more than human, so to speak. However, in the mix of all this warlord comes out of nowhere and kidnaps his wife, and it is up to him, along with this other mysterious figure, to try to track him down and rescue his wife. Sounds like a run-of-the-mill action film, except what makes this movie stand alone from all the others that's gotten everybody talking about it is that it's being told from the first-person perspective. We've had found footage, we've had different variations of found footage. Hell, we had a Skype movie. Alright, Unfriended, where we had all those people talking on Skype through their webcams and shit. What's the next possible thing we can do? I don't know. Let's go ahead and get rid of the camera altogether and just have the film be told from a first-person perspective, and let's make it an action movie. Because if there's one thing that first-person perspective films can take advantage of is the action. A lot of people go online and look up these videos of people attaching GoPros to their helmets or whatever and going on bike rides, hiking, doing parkour. Why not make a full-length film out of that and then add all these elements that are paying homage to the video game genre, in particular the first-person shooter video game genre, and deliver us an action film like Hardcore Henry. And that's why I fully enjoyed this film. The more I think about it, the more I enjoy it, and the more I almost want to watch it again. Now, that's not without its fair share of problems. And it's funny because it has great things about it, and it also has some not so good things about it. And both of those things are not only good and bad things about it as a movie, it's also good and bad things about the experimental use of it being from a first-person perspective. Now, what did I enjoy about this movie? They knew that they needed to take advantage of this first-person perspective, so they needed to choreograph and create these magnificent set pieces where they know that they need to put the person in the driver's seat. You always see these action movies where you got the action hero jumping from like one vehicle to another and just shooting up all the bad guys. Why not put you into that perspective? And so that's what they do with these spectacular set pieces that really stand out. It's not just like action flowing from beginning of the movie to the end. You actually remember, oh yeah, there's that scene that takes place in that abandoned warehouse. Oh no, there's that foot chase that happens in the subway or in that station or whatever. And you see those bits from the trailers. They stand out to you, and that's what made me remember them, and that's what kept me thinking about them even long after I've seen the movie. And they shot it in a way where it's not just a camera attached to a guy. Apparently they used some kind of, I don't want to say rotoscoping, but gyroscope-like technology. I might be wrong about this, but they used some kind of technology to make it the most believable perspective possible. It kind of has like a fisheye lens type of look to it, but at the same time, it looks like they used two cameras to kind of evoke the same feeling that you do when you're using your two eyes, and it's not just one eye, in hopes of reducing motion sickness, which is one of the things that a lot of people are wondering about this film. Is it going to make you sick? Honestly, it really depends on the type of person you are. Watch the trailer on your TV or on your computer or whatever, and I think then you will have to decide for yourself if you're going to go check out this movie. I saw this movie with my girlfriend. Sadly, my girlfriend did feel a little queasy by the end of by the end of the movie. She did feel a little nauseous. I even asked her like at a rating between on a scale of 1 through 10, how queasy are you? She said about 4. So not too bad, but it does evoke that feeling if you're that kind of person. Even if you think that you can handle it because you've seen found footage movies before, it's almost its own thing because found footage, they make it aware, they make it a known thing that they're holding a camera. And sometimes that camera has a level of stabilization to it. Here it's supposed to be a first person perspective, and you know how frequently your head moves every day and you don't notice it? That's the kind of feeling that they're trying to make with this film. And so this is going to be a brand new experience. So even if you're used to those found footage movies and you can watch them no problem, you do need to go into this movie knowing that you may or may not be affected physically by the look of this film. Me personally, however, because of how much of a video game fanatic I am, I walked out of this movie, the best way that I can describe it was that I walked out of this movie feeling like I played a game for like 2 or 3 hours. You know that feeling that you play a video game for a long time and you know you have to, like, your body starts to tell you, okay, you need to put it down. I don't have a headache, I don't feel nauseous, I don't feel even the slightest bit like that, but I do feel a little worn out that I need to put this down and walk away and go get something to eat or go outside or work out a little bit or just do something else besides playing the game, because then I'll get extremely tired of it. And then later on in the day, I'll come back to it. That's the kind of feeling I had walking out of this movie. Even though the movie is short, it's 96 minutes long, I still felt like I've been playing for like 2 or 3 hours. But I think one of the things that gives people that feeling, even people who are seasoned video game players that play an awful lot of first-person games like myself, is because you're not in control. You are watching somebody else doing these motions. So I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple of instances where my fingers kind of flinched a little bit because I was like, okay, press the trigger. Oh, I'm not playing. I gotta remember I'm not playing this game, and that's what might give some people some disorientation, is that they're not playing this game, or they're not playing this movie. Whereas people that play games, they're so used to being in that control that literally they're in that control that when they are watching this movie, they don't know what to expect when the camera is going to jerk from one side to the left. Now there is one of the slight shortcomings that this movie has when it comes to that new experimental approach, is that there are instances, there are some sequences where, as great as the choreography and as the set pieces stand out, some of the camera work does get a little frenetic to the point where I do feel like they needed to cheat a little bit. I know they're going for this like hyper realism that, oh, you're from the perspective of the action hero. I think they needed to cheat a little bit and stabilize the camera a little bit, even if it's a little unrealistic, because the head is constantly moving and it's not going to stand still that frequently. Just like unrealistic it is for people to be carrying that camera around in found footage movies when the shit's going down. I feel like they needed to cheat just a couple of instances, because it could make some other people sick, but for me, it was just frustrating me in certain areas where I'm like, I don't know who's getting punched, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, oh, now he's standing up, now he's running there. I didn't see that transition because the camera was just moving way too frenetically and way too crazy for me to be able to catch that. Besides that, though, even if you strip away this first-person perspective, this is still an exhilarating movie that does have some creative set pieces, that does have this adrenaline pump to it. With that being said, however, I will admit that the story is a little barren. In fact, it's almost non-existent. And that would be fine for an action movie. You got your initial premise, dude kidnapped his wife, now he's trying to go get it back. But I do feel like some characters could have been a little fleshed out. Sharlto Copley, who's known for his breakout role in District 9, and he has popped up here and there in Elysium. He was in Maleficent. I can't remember what's the most recent thing he did besides this, but anyways, he's in this movie, and there's not much that I can say about his character. But the twist that comes with his character, or to say characters, it was cool, but it was cool in the video game sense, where I'm like, because of how I'm used to video games and because of how much this movie is an homage to those games, I'm used to things getting as crazy as that did. And then you got the villain, who's a straight up video game character, but I mean that in the best way possible, because he was a cool villain to go up against that I really wish that in the ending I had a controller and I could really go toe to toe with this guy. It gets so video gamey that I can almost swear this character is actually not just a video game character, he's also a Metal Gear Solid character. If you watch this the movie and you watch this character, the way he acts, the way he talks, the way he approaches you, the way he monologues, and even some of the things that he does are very much Metal Gear Solid. Which leads me to another little shortcoming of the film, is that there's something about this character that I don't want to spoil, that you might have seen in the trailers, but he has an ability that's never fully explained. Unless I missed some line of dialogue that fully explained it, that could have been possible because of how crazy this movie moves from point A to point B. It's possible that maybe I missed some line of dialogue explaining this, but he has an ability that was never fully explained, and I was kind of hoping for there to be a much more solid background to this character, more so than just being the bad guy. But this kind of thing bothered me a little less than in other movies because this movie, it makes it completely clear that it's an homage to video games, and you have plenty of little hints at video games throughout the film. Some not so subtle, some kind of in your face, besides the fact that the movie is in first person perspective, but also there's other little ones that are a little subtle that will go over people's heads who don't play video games, and people like myself will look at that and be like, oh, that's great. Besides that, you also have a killer soundtrack filled with an awful lot of great music that matches the movie and matches the scenes that it's in, including the opening that is actually not only an homage to video games, but it's also an homage to James Bond. It's like a very gory and bloody James Bond. And just there's no other way to explain how awesome it is that they used Queen's Don't Stop Me Now. And not since Shaun of the Dead was that song used so well during an action scene. I always felt like that song could have been used in a very bloody and gory action scene, and they sure enough used it in this film to a very effective way. Besides that, there's not an awful lot more that I can say about the film in a negative light, except to say that the more I think about it, the more I almost want to watch it again. But not so much in the theater. Maybe on online or on DVD and Blu-ray, because it is an experience that was memorable. Whether you liked the style of it being from a first-person perspective or not, it's a movie that people are going to be talking about, and some people might love it, some people might hate it, some people might like it, some people might not be. It might not be their cup of tea, but it's definitely something new that I'm welcoming more filmmakers to do. So, for that, I give Hardcore Henry a high 8 out of 10. It was close to a 9 if they had pulled back a little bit on that jerky, really shaky camera work that I feel like was a little too realistic to where I just couldn't see what was going on. And I wish that there would have been some things that would have been a little more fleshed out within the story, but besides that, it was still a standout action film that people are going to be talking about for years, and I can't wait to tell my friends about it, who were a little skeptical, like, I don't know if that's going to be my thing, I don't know if I'm going to get tired of it for like 90 minutes, and maybe not, but it's worth telling people about. So, if you have seen Hardcore Henry, please let me know in the comments below what you thought about the film. Did you get affected by the camera work? What was your experience watching the film? What type of screen did you watch it in? And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Gotta drink more espresso.